Well, we're back. I'm Gary Johnson with the University of Minnesota Department of Forest Resources, and we've looked at the different nursery rooting stock types. Now, the next thing we're going to look for before we even get to the planting site is, are the trees buried too deeply, either in the soil ball or in the container? And then second of all, only in the container, are the roots badly pot bound, encircling, that they're going to cause problems. So one of the things that we try to do when we check for depth is we try to use non-destructive methods. We could cut the strings off, pull the burlap back on this, and dig down till we find that first main order root. Or we can use surveyor arrow. Now you can use a surveyor arrow, you can use a kebab skewer, you can use a sharpened probe or a screwdriver or something, and you're just pushing down into the soil ball, and you go all the way around. You try to find the most shallow root, because when this thing is finally installed, we want that first main root to be within 1 inch of the soil surface. So right here, I'm already on a root, and I don't really even have to go any further. This one is within 1 inch of the soil surface, which means we don't have to do any correction on this. When we go to dig the hole, we'll measure the depth from the top to the bottom of the soil ball. That'll be the depth of our planting hole. And get this position down in the hole, remove the packaging, it's planted perfectly. Okay, now we're looking at the containerized tree. So we've already checked out the balled and burlap tree. We're going to use the same procedure. And again, just starting near the trunk, moving down around. There's one root right there. That's a couple inches deep. And all I'm looking for is that most shallow root. There's another one there. There's another one there. So yeah, a couple inches deep. What does this tell me? Easy peasy. Here's the depth of the soil ball. I am going to measure this depth before I plant it or dig the hole. I'm going to subtract 2 inches. And then once we do plant that, I'll be able to pull off this excess soil, plant it at the right depth. So let's check this one. So that was the crabapple. Now we have an arborvitae. And again, I'm going to probe around, trying to find that most shallow root. There's one right there, and that's a good 4 inches. And up here's one. There we go, right there. Don't have to do anything. So that's well within that 1 inch. And then finally, our conventional, another arborvitae. Again, probing around. This one right there, again, it's got the right depth to this. So the only one we would have to adjust for would be the first one in the bag. It's a very easy thing to do. Actually, I'm saving you a lot of time because you will dig this hole 2 inches more shallow than you normally would have. So that little bit of time that it's going to take to scoop off the excess soil, you've already made up for because you didn't have to dig the hole so deeply. Now, the last thing, before we go any further, and obviously we don't have to do any of this with the bare root tree because we can see the roots. The last thing we'll do is check to see if the encircling roots are bad or indifferent or it's no big deal. And this is all research-based information. With the bagged tree, the only way we can really tell is make a slice, peel it back to look at it. One of the things about growing trees in bags, you rarely have encircling roots. And when you do have them, they're not that big of a deal and you can take care of them pretty easy. With containerized, the hard plastic, a little bit different of a story. So we'll look at this one first. And by the way, if you do this in a garden center, don't do this in a garden center. Ask one of the people that work at the garden center to pull it out of the container for you. They're worried you're going to hurt your back, quite honestly. So have them pull it out. And then you can get an idea of is the root system slightly or horridly pot bound. You be the judge on this one. You think it's slightly pot bound? Or you think it's horridly pot bound? You're right, it's horridly pot bound. One of the big deals about this, and this is actually very, very common with a number of plants, With arborvitae, with birch, with euonymus, they get pop bound wicked fast like this. One of the problems is if you don't do anything to it, and you have these encircling roots that are getting nice and thick and woody in there, it can end up like this. Now this tree, this was a birch tree. This was in the ground for almost 4 years before I noticed that it kept tipping. And it shouldn't do that after 3 or 4 years. The roots should be well anchored out into the soil. But obviously this is almost 100% of the root system. The woody roots that were encircling developed kind of a memory, and they never broke that memory. And we've done some experiments before with trying to correct this problem. We've used the slicing method, where you just take a utility knife or a pocket knife, and this is what I was taught years and years ago. Just make these slices 3 or 4 places around, and usually people crisscross in the bottom. Well, it turns out it doesn't work very well. If you have really bad root system like this, about the only thing that we've found, and also University of Florida has found, is physical removal of part of this root system. So at the University of Minnesota, we've termed it boxing the root system, and I'll quickly demonstrate how to do this. First of all, find an older saw, not one that you're using on pruning trees all the time. And second of all, trust me, we have literally done this to hundreds of trees in the spring, in the summer, in the autumn, right before winter. We have never, ever killed a tree with this. So you're not killing the tree, you're actually saving it. And you only take off about 1 inch, and that'll get rid of those encircling roots around the outside. And it's almost like if you're slicing off some gyro meat here. So there's one cut, and our second cut. Be like that, and then we'll do it on the third side and the fourth side. So it's called boxing. The root system ends up, instead of looking like a cylinder, it looks like a box. So that's why we call it boxing. Here's what I want to show you though. This is a cool thing. So we looked at this. These are both arborvitae. This one's just a little bit taller than this. But remember when I said that arborvitae, period, just fill up the containers fast and become impacted. See any circling roots in that? No, you don't. So that's one of the nice things about the air root pruning containers, the bag systems, is you get away from that problem of encircling roots. Does it ever happen? Oh yeah, every once in a while it happens, but not to the point where it's a problem. The last thing I want to say on an arborvitae or any tree that has the encircling roots, look at those when you pull it out of the container. If they're kind of creamy colored, light colored, and you can just kind of pull them apart with your fingers, you don't have to do anything. They haven't developed that woody root stature and that memory that's going to keep them encircling. As soon as you plant them in a well-prepared planting site, those roots are going to grow. It's when they're thicker, they're woody, and they're really packed in there, that's when you worry about it. And that's all I have to say about taking care of depth and encircling roots.